As young single guys, we can have an expectation on marriage or relationship that it's going to satisfy us in different areas or deal with certain temptations that we experience. We can get to the point of building up so many of these expectations and hopes for a relationship that actually are unrealistic expectations and put an enormous amount of weight on our potential partner. But then we get in a relationship, which happened to me, and then we begin to find out that as amazing and awesome as this is, there were certain faulty expectations that you had on marriage that now you need to deal with those issues. For you guys that are having those expectations, which makes sense, I had them too, I want to bring some clarity to what marriage won't fix, what a relationship won't actually fix, and what we need to deal with on our own as guys with God, and not put that on our potential relationship that it's going to deal with it. I've seen people talk about this topic before and are very black and white with it. They say, you know what, relationship won't fix this or marriage won't fix that. But I'm going to be real that there are some gray areas, that marriage is a wonderful thing, it's an awesome thing, and that it does help in some areas. And I'm going to be just clear and honest about what those are for you. But at the same time, I'm going to be clear about what it actually doesn't fulfill and doesn't satisfy and doesn't deal with on its own. I'm going to get really specific and practical for you here in this video, but before we get into it, I want to let you know that we just did our first video call with the Kindred Brothers Club on Patreon. We had about 20 guys on the call. It would be amazing to be able to see you guys and meet you. I would love to be able to work with you in community and grow with one another. Join us on Patreon. Not only do you help support the ministry, but you get access to our men's only chat room and our weekly video calls. If this is a community you want to go deeper in, guys, this is your opportunity, and it would be so awesome to have you on there. Now, let's get into the video. Now, I don't see very many people talk about this, but before we get into these things that marriage won't fix, these 5 things, I want to talk about how the progression of a relationship affects these things. You see, when you're a single guy, you have these expectations. Okay, what is marriage going to bring about? How is it going to help me in different temptations? How is it going to help me in purpose and stuff like that? And we'll talk about all that specifically. But then you get in a relationship, and to be honest with you, initially, all those hopes and dreams, if it's a good relationship, seem to be met. Oh wow, like you're in this haze of happiness and butterflies and rainbows, and it's like, this is amazing, right? You have purpose, all those temptations are put on the back burner, and everything just seems to be going amazing. And some guys in that instance can convince themselves, wow, you know what? All those guys that said marriage wouldn't be everything to me, it is. And it's all fulfilling, and it makes me whole and all this, and that's great. But then eventually you become comfortable with the other person. You know, becomes normal. It's not that you don't love them anymore. No, you love them and you appreciate the companionship and the love and all the things that go with that. But then real life kind of hits you. And those questions, temptations, struggles, insecurities, they begin to come back. Why? Because you never actually dealt with them. They just kind of were put on the back burner because you were lost in a cloud of love and happiness and infatuation, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing, but it does mean that you still need to deal with those issues. So what are some of those issues that we should deal with now? Well, number 1, what marriage won't fix is your lust addiction. Now, the Bible is clear about the fact that it is better to marry than it is to burn, right? If you're burning with lust, if you're burning with passion, it's better to marry. But at the same time, it's very clear about marrying a bad woman, how bad that is for your life. Like, it's better to be on a rooftop. It's like she's a leaking faucet. It's a disaster if you marry a bad woman. So in that, we should be discerning. It's not just, okay, I feel all this lust and this sexual passion within me, I should just get with anybody I could and marry them. No, obviously not. You want to marry the person that's going to, benefit your walk with Christ, and you're going to benefit their walk with Christ, and you can walk together and sacrifice with each other and all that. That's part of it. But then when it comes to the sexual component, right, you have this lust addiction. The truth is, yes, you have these sexual desires, and can those be fulfilled in the context of marriage rightly and, godly? Yes, absolutely. That is true. The issue here is that people often use lust, okay, we'll talk about pornography addiction specifically, as a coping mechanism for the negative feelings that they experience. It's not merely a sexual thing. So the fact that your sexual needs maybe are fulfilled in marriage, but are your, needs for comfort, are your needs for, dealing with, bad feelings that you're feeling, is that met? Well, maybe, but often people will return to the same habits that they've grown up with and they've used throughout their single years or whatever. And they'll go back to those other coping mechanisms because, oh, when I feel anxious or I feel bad or I've had a long day at work, that's how I comfort myself. The other piece of this, and I hear this all the time, young guys saying, hey, Isaac, I struggle with this and I just really want to get married, but I just hope that when I get married that this will be dealt with because I'll be able to have sex with her and like that will be all I need, right? But you got to be asking yourself, okay, you have this lack of self-control problem, right? That's truly it, right? You have this lack of self-control problem. You're medicating yourself with these images, with these videos. And what is it to say that when you are married, when she's not available, right? Maybe she's away. Maybe she just had a baby. Maybe she's not in the mood, right? You need to be asking yourself, do you have the self-control? Do you have the self-control to be patient, to wait, to not be able to release in that moment? Or are you going to have to, again, get that instant gratification that you've taught yourself is what you get? These are just some things to consider, guys. I know it's a struggle. Like, I know that's real. And yeah, there's a degree of like, I remember being a single guy and struggling with lust and being like, man, it would be so nice to have a wife that I could be with and that desire would be satisfied. But it is more complex than that, right? If you're struggling with this now in any way or capacity, I always say, like, don't do this on your own. Get other brothers in your life, like join our community if you want to. We will help you be accountable. Other friends in your life, like just confess it to them. And also, if you don't have a software already on your phone or computer, get Covenant Eyes. It's 30 days free. You can sign up. If it doesn't help you, it doesn't work for you, like can't cancel it, but it has helped so many people. The second thing that marriage won't fix is our insecurities. Now, the truth is that when I was in this phase of like the honeymoon phase where everything was just going so great and you felt so confident and just like, you're a man, everything was amazing, right? But then we got into kind of the marriage life, and all these insecurities began to come up, and she would ask me questions, or maybe I would feel like she was questioning some things about my skills or my decisions or things like that. And I remember getting just really defensive, like consistently. And I was like, okay, well, what happened? I was so confident before, but it was really because I was lost in this haze of the honeymoon phase where everything's just yippee skippy, right? But looking back into, when I was single, like right before I had met my wife, man, there was a lot of insecurity there. There was a lot of lack of confidence there. And just because all of a sudden I was married didn't mean that all that went away. Because here's the deal, is a lot of guys will try to ground their confidence in their woman or the fact that they have a woman or in what she thinks of them. But if you do that too, then all of a sudden she starts to question some aspects about how you're living or the decisions that you're making or anything really. You begin to get super defensive, and that foundation that you built your confidence on is crumbling down. For me, what I've learned is that my confidence has to be grounded in who God says I am, in his acceptance and approval of me by his grace, in the fact that he sees me, in the fact that I can be secure and significant in him. And that's what it has to be, right? That's always what it had to be. Whether you're a single guy looking for just random girls to give you attention or affection in order to feel connected and whole and significant, or you're a married guy and you're just looking for your wife to do that for you, you're landing yourself on a faulty foundation, like one that cannot fully make you satisfied or whole or secure. Because if you build your confidence on what she thinks of you, then you live and die by her acceptance or rejection of you or her approval of your decisions. But sometimes you're going to need to make decisions, especially as a married man, that she might totally not approve of at the time. But you do it anyway because you care for her and you love her and you're leading your family. You need to be able to do that. That's like a core principle, core element of being able to be a confident man, is leading even when she doesn't really like you. The third thing that marriage and a relationship can't solve is a sense of purpose. Yeah, sure. When you're in that honeymoon phase, it feels like this person is my life, right? Like everything, like I only need this person, and all that is great. And I think that's an awesome way to feel. And I still feel that way in a lot of ways about my wife. But you need to have some sort of vision, right? You need to especially as a man, you need to have some sort of vision for where you're taking your family. Yes, it's amazing that you guys are satisfied and content with each other, and that's great, but where are you going to take your family? She, as much as she's excited to be with you and happy to be with you and loves you, she is relying on you to lead this vision for your family. Something somebody said the other day really stuck with me, is that you were made for God, not your spouse. You were made for God, not your spouse, right? Your spouse, as much as God has given you them to be your partner, that you can, image Christ in his church, you were specifically made for Christ and glorifying him and serving him and glorifying him. And you do that with your partner. But if you all of a sudden create them as the main purpose, that I'm going to glorify them, then you create an idol. The fourth thing that marriage cannot solve is how you naturally treat and see women. Okay, when you're in this honeymoon phase again, right, you can be the best guy ever. And you see this, guys that are kind of toxic, all of a sudden they clean their life up, right? And they're in this honeymoon phase and they're just so nice. They open the door. They're so chivalrous. They're caring for their girlfriend or whatever. But then they get married, and all those tendencies of how they, treated their mother and their sister and their female friends, that's exactly how they end up treating their wife. If you have all these expectations of how you're going to treat your wife, right? Oh, I'm going to be so nice to her and conscientious and kind and caring, and I'm just going to, be able to perceive her needs and be able to fulfill them. And yet with your sisters, with your mom, with your female friends and acquaintances, you're kind of short with them. You don't respect them. You treat them poorly. Then why do you have an expectation that you're going to treat your wife any way different? Now, you might convince yourself at the beginning, because you're in this honeymoon phase, that you are. No, I'm different now. But really, is that true? I can look back at my teenage years and recognize that I was really short with my mom, right? I was homeschooled, so she was my teacher a lot of my younger years. I began to kind of teach myself when I was a teenager. But at the same time, I just didn't respect her opinion or perspective, and I would cut her off a lot as a teenager. And I recognized, even as a teenager, I thought, okay, you know what? The second I get in a relationship, I'm just going to care for her and listen to her and all that. And you might initially, but those tendencies will fall back in. And so now, even as a husband, I'm having to relearn and retrain myself. Isaac, be patient with her, respect her opinion. Don't talk over her. I need to remind myself of those things because that's a shortcoming of mine. The fifth thing that marriage will not fix is your relationship with God. I heard it said the other day that God doesn't have any grandchildren, meaning that, if you're a Christian and you have kids, it's not automatic that they're going to follow God or, commit themselves and trust in God. They need to make that decision for themselves. You can't make that decision for them. In the same way, I think that God doesn't have in-laws, right? Just because your spouse is really, your wife is really into her faith and has a really good relationship with God, that doesn't mean that she's going to fix your relationship with God, because that's on you. One time a friend came up to me and he said, Isaac, I really want to talk to you. Can we talk seriously? And I said, sure. And a couple days later, he came over to my place and he said, hey, Isaac, I have this cycle that I keep getting caught up in and I just can't stop it. It goes like this. I meet a girl that I really like, and my faith's not doing so good. I'm not really reading the word. I'm not really going to church that often. And just in all rounds, I'm not living a very Christian life. I'm not going crazy, but it's just not very Christian. And but I meet this girl and she's a good Christian girl. And so I fix up my life. I start going to church. I start reading the word. I start saying all the right things and reading the right things. But then either we break up or she rejects me or it just doesn't work out somehow. And I began to kind of backslide again. I began to fall back into all those same habits and it just keeps happening. What I told him is that he was building his foundation of his faith on his potential girlfriend or potential wife. That was the foundation of his relationship with God. So that when that began to crumble, then he had really nothing left. Beyond that, I told him he was kind of using God as a means to get what he wanted, right? Get a good relationship, get a Christian relationship, get a Christian wife. He was utilizing God as a tool to get to where he wanted to be. Your relationship with God is on you. It's not on a girl to come in your life and help fix you up because you don't want that dynamic anyway. I guess one way to sum all these things up is you can't look to her to be your savior. You can't look to her to be your deliverer from lack of purpose or lust, or it's enough pressure to be on the lookout for a potential wife. It's a whole nother thing to be on the lookout for a potential savior. Thanks for watching this video, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And until next time, keep pursuing the mission.